So many of you probably saw that China and Russia conducted a joint naval patrol that floated near Alaska. This was the largest joint patrol that China and Russia has conducted near U.S. territorial waters ever. 4 U.S. destroyers monitored the 11 Chinese and Russian ships, and I'm basically here to tell you that this whole event was a big nothing burger, like all of these events between the U.S., China, and Russia. U.S. Northern Command and the North American Aerospace Defense Command tracked the ships as they patrolled in international waters near Alaska. They never actually came into the territorial waters of the U.S. I'm not concerned about ships patrolling in international waters, and I'm generally not concerned about the Chinese and Russian Navy being in our neighborhood, so to speak, because the U.S. Pacific Fleet could easily handle both China and Russia simultaneously, and that is even without our allies, who are extraordinarily capable as well. I mean, Japan is like the second or third most powerful navy in the world, period. Now, many of you will say, but China is the largest navy in the world with 340 ships. And I say, yeah, Lada makes a lot more cars than Ferrari, but it doesn't mean Lada is going to be winning the Le Mans anytime soon. The bottom line is neither of these navies are modern, and in the case of China, the majority of their boats are coastal defense boats operating near the Chinese mainland. They aren't designed to be large expeditionary fleets like the U.S. fields in our carrier battle groups. Yes, some of their boats can sail across the ocean, as we've just seen, but not nearly as many as necessary to affect any kind of outcome on the U.S. mainland. Make no mistake, if there was going to be a naval fight, it will be in China's backyard, not ours. This combined Russian and Chinese patrol was the largest these two countries have combined to conduct, but China and Russia have not really shown the ability to integrate their encrypted communications or battlefield systems that monitor both air, space, sea, any kind of computer systems for conducting effective battlefield monitoring and execution are not integrated between China and Russia as of yet. So other than speaking on open frequencies, which these ships were, we're not even sure Russia and China can talk to each other effectively in a naval battle scenario without being intercepted by the U.S. and its allies. Meanwhile, all of the allies of the U.S. are able to integrate seamlessly, as interoperability has been something that the U.S. has focused on for the past 20 years. Also, these types of patrols don't happen very often. The last time this happened was last year when 7 Chinese and Russian ships sailed by the Aleutian Islands in international waters and the U.S. Coast Guard tailed them. But there's a difference in how Russia and China and the U.S. react to these type of patrols. The Chinese propaganda machine used it as an opportunity to turn a quote by a retired Navy captain in which he told the Wall Street Journal that the move is highly provocative into something that they can use. Now, what he said was that the move was highly provocative, and then we saw an explosion of propaganda from Russian and Chinese spaces talking about that very quote. It was not official U.S. Navy, nor is it the official stance from the U.S. government policy. Neither the Navy nor U.S. or the Canadian government said that it was highly provocative. It was just this one guy talking to the Wall Street Journal. And of course, the Chinese and Russians grabbed onto it to highlight a manufactured U.S. double standard in calling the patrols near the U.S. border highly provocative, but the patrols near China are okay. The bottom line is both patrols are fine because they're in international waters. But that didn't stop China and Russia from attaching to that one singular statement from that one guy and then hammering it until the idiot masses that blindly follow China and Russia gave a collective, yep, that's what happened. In fact, the official statement from the US and Canada is the patrol remained in international waters and was not considered a threat. The bottom line, though, is when the U.S. operates in the South China Sea, China does stupid crap like turn its boats into oncoming ships. The Chinese Coast Guard harasses civilian vessels, as we've recently seen in the Philippines. Meanwhile, the U.S., who aren't petulant children, just monitored and watched the Russians and Chinese ships as they moved near Alaska and then sailed away. So I see this as a nothing burger, much like when Russia and China enter our air defense identification zone and then leave before they actually enter U.S. or Canadian airspace. Was it purposefully provocative? Probably, but that's about it. And frankly, the U.S. and NATO do the same thing to China and Russia. It's just the name of the game. The difference is we aren't asshats when we do it. We're just reinforcing maritime rule of law and international freedom of navigation, whereas China and Russia apparently want to start something. Well, one of these days, they're going to regret that decision.